Hello everyone, I expect you're surprised to see me on today. You thought it was Saturday. Don't worry, you haven't got it wrong. I was up the mountain this morning thinking about what we were doing in Bible study, and I realised that I'd thrown an awful lot of place names at you and spoken quite at length about all that people were doing there, with a very clear picture in my own mind of what was going on. But maybe you were getting a little bit lost with all the names, and so I thought, hey, let's have a look at a map. So that's what we're going to do today. I've got the map of sort of the top half of the world here to actually put things into perspective. This, of course, is the Mediterranean. Got Italy there, which we're familiar with. And then as we come down Lydia here, this is Turkey now. And we've got Egypt. And the bit that we're really interested in is up here, Syria, Mesopotamia as it's called, and then down Babylonia. And this area, of course, now is called Saudi Arabia. So there, if we go, we've got Jerusalem right there in the middle of our page. Now, I'm going to turn over so that we can look at the period of history that I'm actually talking about with Isaiah. So this is a map that shows us first and foremost, if you focus in again, you'll see Jerusalem is there. And if we pull the camera back slightly, you can see where the heartland of the Assyrian Empire is outlined in red, coming all the way down to Tyre. You'll remember that we spoke about that in the prophecy of Isaiah being completely sacked, and then 70 years before it got back on its feet again. Tyre and Sidon, very important ports for world commerce at that time. The larger Assyrian Empire, which is the bit that we're actually dealing with, is outlined by this, I think you'd call it a purple line. You can see it goes all the way down there along the Nile, this food basin of the whole area from Egypt. There are names here that we've mentioned. Media, so the Medes, the Elam, the Elamites, and of course, Babylonia, Babylon itself, Baghdad, currently today, of course, Iraq. One of the main reasons that the Assyrian Empire was so successful is that it was based along this river Tigris. I think you can follow that there. Again, a lot to do with commerce. Now, I mentioned, and we do mention in Isaiah, the difference between Judah and Israel. So I'm going to turn over the map page now, and we can have a look at what they look like at this period of time, and how it is basically two kingdoms. The top part here is Israel, and again we get some very famous names that we know even to this day. Damascus, and then not particularly to this day, but Dan, of course, which always goes with Beersheba. And then as we go down here, we've got Judah, and not to be confused, there's Edom and Moab, the Dead Sea, which many people know, and that means that going up here, we've got the Sea of Galilee or Lake Galilee. Over to the left-hand side, we've got Philistia, or the Palestinians, and of course the very famous Gaza Strip. So the prophecies were often said either against Judah or against Israel. Sometimes they were included together, but often they were separate. If you remember, the judgment was made against Judah, and basically that was it. Whereas Israel, they were still sort of debating as to whether that should be condemned or not. We turn the page over again. Turned over too many there. We can see the rule of Nebuchadnezzar and the journey that he made from Babylon. So here we have Babylon, and we go out on his journey. He's did a siege. These green circles mean that he sieged or besieged those particular places. And he came back from being up in the Turkish area and came down through here, through Hamath and to Tyre. We mentioned that that was sieged, and then back, and then he came into Jerusalem. And if you look, you can see Jerusalem has got that green circle around it, showing that it was besieged. And then you can see it's not a terribly long journey through the old Assyrian Empire back to Babylon here, where he took the people into exile. I had one more page. There we are. I thought I hadn't lost it, which shows here in the orange colour the state of Assyria overlaid with Babylon, and you can see that they are almost identical. If we go down towards the bottom of the page, we will see the full extent of the Babylonian Empire, which is to come into being. And if we cut that out, it would almost cover the Assyrian Empire. So they've just sort of taken over one from the other, except for the Egypt bit. Now, Babylon did go down into Egypt, but basically they didn't stay. They didn't keep many resources there. The last thing I want to do is to go back to our map of the whole area, and just to remind you from our last Bible study how the Babylonians, the Elamites and the Medes are natural allies there to argue and fight against Assyria, to have that revolt, which was then put down. But you can see it's not a great leap for them to be involving Jerusalem. And of course, because we've got Egypt down here, we've got Ethiopia off to the left of that, and those people of course came up to make allegiance with Jerusalem and the people of Israel here. So although I did say that they were a small nation, and they are a small nation in comparison to what other people are doing, they were also on all of the routes, the trade routes through here. And so they were a community that knew and met a lot of people and had a lot of conversations. I hope that's been helpful. Thank you very much indeed. You take care, stay well. Bye-bye now.